Bush happens to be elected, that Cheney would be the deciding vote in the Senate. We'll just have to see how that goes. Looks like the Republicans may retain control of the House. Hillary Clinton is making her winning acceptance address.
Bottom of my heart. Thank you, New York. Thank you for opening up your minds and your hearts, for seeing the possibility of what we could do together for our children and for our future here in this state and in our nation. I am profoundly grateful to all of you for giving me the chance to serve you. I will do everything I can to be worthy of your faith and trust and to honor the powerful example of Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. I would like all of you and the countless New Yorkers and Americans watching to join me in honoring him for his incredible half-century of service to New York and our nation. Senator Moynihan, on behalf of New York and America, thank you. And I thank Chuck Schumer for his generous support and friendship. He has been and will be a great champion for the people of New York, and I very much look forward to fighting by his side in the United States Senate.
Hillary Clinton with her victory address. And give the woman credit. She fought an uphill race in the beginning, brought it through to a winner. Her opponent, Blasio, the congressman from Long Island, also fought an uphill race. He got in the race late, if you remember. Tremendous Senate race here in New York, won by Hillary Clinton. Now, if Al Gore loses his bid for the presidency, you'll hear people talking about Hillary Rodham Clinton as the next Democratic nominee for president. She has said repeatedly far too early to be thinking about that, but that won't keep a lot of other people from thinking about it. California's Governor Gray Davis would be thinking about making a run. North Carolina Senator John Edwards, a young comer from a mid-Atlantic state with a southern drawl, would also be looking at it. But it's far too early, because right now, here's the way the presidential race looks. 230 for Gore. He's picked up California and Hawaii to go back into the lead. 217 for Bush. Gore has carried 16 states plus the District of Columbia for a total of 230 electoral votes. Bush has carried 24 states, all the states in red, Gore's are in blue, and Bush has 217 electoral votes. Where the lights are blinking, all in red, these are all states that Bush has carried that the Clinton-Gore team carried back in 1996. The presidency, the first full presidency of the 21st century, is still hanging in the balance. It takes 270 electoral votes to win. Everything may come back to, if you will, Florida. 25 electoral votes has been moved out of the Gore column and into the undecided column because of some poor data that went into computers early on. That's our excuse, and we're sticking to it. But if 25 electoral votes in Florida could be the difference. Now, Bob Schieffer, you had some mathematics a while ago. Should Al Gore actually win Florida, since he's won California, he would be how far from victory?
Well, listen to this. Now, we talked about if Bush got Florida, it'd be virtually impossible for Gore to win the presidency. But let's suppose that Gore wins Florida. That's 25 electoral votes. Put that on to 230, that brings you to 255. We think Gore will probably win in Washington State. He's certainly favored there. That would take him to 266. Gore would then have 266. He would need only 4 electoral votes to win the presidency. But where does he get them? Does he get them in Arkansas? Is still too close to coal. He was not favored there. Does he get them in Colorado? He was not favored there. Oregon, Arizona, Iowa. he was not really favored in any of those states. But if he could just get one of those states, then Gore would be president.
Well, we've said it many times. If a frog had side pockets, he'd carry a handgun.
And
he doesn't have
not.
side pockets, so maybe he won't get those states, and maybe he will. Ed Bradley on the presidential race. How does it look in Oregon and Washington?
Well, I think Ralph Nader's doing very well in those two states. Right now, he's polling around 6%, and it appears that he's hurting Gore more. For example, in Oregon, if Nader were not running, he would overwhelmingly take most of that vote. And if you look among Oregon independents, they make up almost 30% of the voters out there. You see that Ralph Nader is getting 14% of the independent vote, which is absolutely amazing. So Nader's doing two things in this election. One, he's taking the Green Party towards that magic 5% number, which would qualify them for matching federal funds.
About $13 million of your money and mine.
And in certain states, he's hurting Al Gore.
And every taxpayer. Certain states, Nader's hurting Al Gore. Want to give you another look at how close this race is. 230 in the Electoral College votes for Al Gore since he picked up California and Iowa very recently. Bush has 217 with 270 needed to win. The race is as hot and tight as a too small bathing suit on a too long car ride back from the beach. That's exactly how it must feel to these candidates, even worse for them. Can you imagine the tension that these candidates and their families are going through with a race this tight? A great presidential race, however it goes. Leslie Stahl.
Well, I'm looking at my ballot initiatives tonight, and a second voucher ballot initiative has been defeated in California. 2/3 of California voted against school vouchers. Supporters made a special effort to target minorities. 70% of blacks, 60% of Hispanics voted against school vouchers in California. This could be the nail in the coffin of the school voucher movement in the United States.
Bob, let's talk about the control of the Senate. Now, there's an absolutely sizzling hot Senate race in Washington. Polls have closed there now, undecided in the Senate race, and we haven't called it the presidential race. Bring me up to date on the Senate race in Washington and the Senate overall.
Well, Maria Cantwell, who is a wealthy former congressman, she made a lot of money when she left the Congress and went to work for one of the software firms out there, is challenging Slade Gordon, the longtime Republican senator out there. Now, if she beats him, and the Democrats managed to win some very tight races in Michigan, Montana, or Missouri, we will wind up with a 50-50 Senate. That is, if the Democrats hold Nebraska as they were expected to do. This is far from that. It just adds to the wackiness of the night. What's going to finally happen in the Senate? We may not know the answer here for a day or so.
Well, and as far as control of the House goes, it's shaded toward the Republicans, but too early to say which way it's going to go, Leslie?
Well, so far we only know of one Democratic pickup. We're now moving into California. This is their mother lode. There are 4 vulnerable Republicans. They could pick up the 4 there. Then they're very close. The other races that we're watching for them to pick up are too close to call all across the country, Dan.
Let's go to Anthony Mason on late decides in the presidential race. Anthony, what have our exit polls told us about that?
Dan, our exit poll shows today that 11% of voters made up their minds within the last 3 days, and they swung to Gore, but by a narrow margin, as you can see, 48 to 44%. For many of those undecided voters, it was not an easy decision. When asked about the strength of their support, nearly 3/4 of those undecided said they had reservations about the candidate they ultimately voted for. So they may have been reluctant, even tortured decisions, but they give a narrow edge to Al Gore. Dan?
Anthony Mason. Well, there's a pause in the action here. Both sides, of course, have champagne on ice, the Gore forces and the Bush forces, but that champagne may get so cold and frozen up you'd have to get a pickaxe to open it up, as close as things are. Colorado goes for Bush. As expected, 8 what could be very important electoral college votes drop for Bush in Colorado. Colorado in recent years has leaned Republican in presidential races. Clinton carried it in '92, but that's when Perot got a very large vote out there. Important for Bush. Every vote now is important. So George Bush gets the 8 electoral votes in Colorado. All the states in red have gone for Bush. All the states in blue have gone for Gore. States in white are places where the polls have closed, but we do not have enough information to say that there's a decision. You may look at Florida. You may have been out somewhere and come back and say, well, what happened on Florida? Suspect data went into computers. We pulled it back, put it in the undecided column. It could still go either way. The Bush people think they'll win it on the strength of majority and absentee ballots. The Gore people think they'll win it because they rank so strong in southeast Florida. Among the other states, well, we'll go to the other states in a moment, but John Roberts is in Nashville. John?
Well, Dan, here is the square where Al Gore will arrive at some point this evening, depending on when the election is decided. They're saying that Florida is still looking good for them, even though it's been put back into the undecided category. But really, I think now the Gore campaign is in fits, trying to figure out how they can put this back together again. They're looking now at the Northwest, and we've been talking about this Nader vote and how much it might drag off of the vote for Al Gore. Well, yesterday, campaign chairman Bill Daley told me they didn't think that they were going to be able to draw as much from Nader as they had originally thought. They were originally looking at about 30%. Now he thinks it'll be far less than that. So, Dan, this one a nail-biter for them, and they're still trying to figure out how they can put it together.
John Roberts in Nashville. Let's go to Bill Whitaker in Austin. Bill, it's been such a seesaw battle. What's happening there in Austin? They haven't started celebrating yet.
Well, Dan, people here are really on pins and needles. Now, one of the main strategies that the Bush campaign was pursuing through all of this was to rely on Bush's Republican governor friends to use their organizations to get him ahead in those big states. And of the 4 states that he relied on most, in Pennsylvania and in Michigan, those governors weren't able to deliver. And the other states that he was counting on most, in Wisconsin and Florida, well, things are still up in the air right now. And Florida is the one that is the big one for him, not just because of the votes, but because this is the state that his brother has promised to deliver for him. Dan?
Bill Whitaker in Austin. It's been said geography is destiny. It certainly is destiny tonight for these 2 presidential candidates, both of whom want this oh so badly. Oh, so badly. Bush to avenge his father's loss in 1992. Gore, who's been trained to make a race for the presidency since he was a child. And here's the geography at the moment. The Electoral College count is 225 for Bush since he's picked up Colorado just in the last few minutes. It's 230 for Gore. The states in red have been carried by George Bush. The states in blue, including the big burrito out there in California, 54 electoral votes there. The states in white, the polls have closed, but we do not yet have a decision in them. That includes Florida. The whole thing may hinge back now on Florida. The polls have not closed in Alaska. Those blinking lights for red are states that the Democrats carried last time and that Bush carried this time. Our CBS News coverage will continue after you consider that the electoral vote count right now is 230 Gore, 225 Bush, with big states hanging out there.
Being a mom, being a wife, being a career woman, how can you be everything? The Early Show connects you to those who know. Useful tips for your home with Martha Stewart, staying healthy with Dr. Emily Sine, feeling good about yourself with Dale Haddon, and putting it all together with women.com. All the information you need to get that balance back in your life. Health, beauty tips, parenting advice, coping with relationships, and improving your home. How to have it all for women who want to know. Weekday mornings on The Early Show on CBS.
He's one of the most decorated Green Berets in history. Now this colonel stands accused of murdering his wife.
What did you kill her with, Colonel? I did not kill her.
But could this American hero be the target of a plot to destroy him?
I loved her. I still love her.
Who killed the colonel's wife? 48 Hours, Thursday.
For the latest national and local election results that affect you the most, log on to CBS.com.
270 Electoral College votes needed to win. Gore has 230. Bush has 225. Bush has carried 25 states. Gore 16 in the District of Columbia. The Senate, control of the Senate hangs in the balance at this hour, may depend on a close Senate race in Washington where the polls have closed, but we do not know the outcome of the Senate race and can't tell you how Washington's 11 electoral votes are going to go. Leslie Stahl on the House desk, what's it look like for control of the House?
Well, we don't know. I have to be honest. We've had so few of the contested tight races coming in that it's very difficult to know at this point. Everything is very tight. So far, just one pickup. Remember, the Democrats to take over control need 7. And it doesn't look good for them, Dan. It does not look good.
Shaded toward Republicans retaining control of the House.
Bill Daley, Gore's campaign chairman, said that for the Dems to take over the House, they had to have a breeze from Gore. I'm not sure they're getting that breeze tonight.